Hello, everyone. Have you ever come home after a grueling day, opened your front door, and instead of a sigh of relief, you feel your tension actually dialing up? It's that visceral feeling where the walls are literally shrinking and your own belongings are aggressively pressing in on you. I'm Murph, and I am currently in a toxic relationship with my own living room.
And I'm Jessica. Welcome to our new season, More Than Walls. Today, we are dissecting exactly why our psyche reacts so sharply to tight spaces and how your interior design is secretly pulling the strings on your mood. Spoiler alert, your coffee table might be plotting against you.
You know, Jess, I always compare living in a studio apartment packed with furniture to riding in a crowded elevator. You just can't ever fully relax because your personal space is constantly being invaded. Only instead of some guy breathing on your neck, it's being violated by your walls and your stuff.
That elevator metaphor is biologically spot on, Murph. Physiologically speaking, when we are in cramped environments, our cortisol levels actually spike. Evolutionarily, our brain reads restricted movement and a lack of escape routes as a literal threat to our survival. There's this fascinating research by environmental psychologist Dr. Colin Ellard, who uses virtual reality to measure physiological responses to architecture. Basically, deep down, we are all just dramatic savanna animals trapped in expensive shoeboxes. This brings us to a brilliant field called neuroaesthetics. Even when you're just sitting on the sofa, mindlessly scrolling through your phone, your brain is operating in the background, constantly scanning the geometry of the room. When you have bulky furniture blocking your walkway or sharp corners pointing at you, your muscles actually microtense in anticipation.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's exactly like the low ceiling effect. I was looking at a basement apartment last week, and I swear I spent the whole time unconsciously slouching and shrinking into myself. I left feeling like a goblin. It really proves that a space can either drain you like an energy vampire or recharge you like a battery.
So, what's the architectural first aid for our inner goblins? Step 1. Immediately clear your main traffic routes in the center of the room so your primitive brain can finally register a safe path.
Right. Step 2 is creating a point of peace. Find at least one corner or zone with absolutely no clutter, a spot where there is nothing extra, and it's simply pleasant to look at so your eyes can rest. Which actually leads us perfectly to today's listener question. Sarah from Chicago writes, "Hey guys, my apartment is 400 square feet. I literally cannot throw out my bed or my desk. How do I create this safe path when the furniture has nowhere else to go?"
Fantastic question, Sarah. This is where professional interior stagers use a trick called floating. Pull your furniture just 2 or 3 inches away from the wall. It creates a micro shadow line that tricks the brain into perceiving more depth and breathing room. Also, if you can, swap out rectangular tables for round ones. Eliminating those sharp corners stops your muscles from doing that micro tensing we mentioned. To wrap up today's session, please remember that your home does not have to be some perfect, glossy magazine cover. The golden rule is that it simply needs to be psychologically safe.
Exactly. And speaking of keeping it safe, next time we're tackling the invisible enemy of tiny apartments, visual noise. We'll get into exactly why things like colorful book spines and open shelving are secretly making your brain work unpaid overtime.
So, before you go and start pushing all your furniture exactly 2 inches away from the walls, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us. Leaving a rating or review is the absolute best way to support the show, and it guarantees you won't miss our upcoming battle against visual clutter. See you next time!
Hello, everyone. Have you ever walked into your apartment, looked around, and instantly felt exhausted? Like, you haven't even taken off your shoes yet, but your mood just completely plummets. I'm Murph, and my kitchen counter is currently giving me minor anxiety.
And I'm Jessica. Welcome back. Last time, we talked about the physical trap of small spaces. Today, as promised, we are tackling the invisible enemy visual noise. We're diving into exactly how your interior design dictates your mood, and why those colorful book spines and open shelving are secretly making your brain work unpaid overtime.
Okay, Jess, let's talk about this unpaid overtime. Because I love my open kitchen shelves. I really do. But sometimes I look at my mismatched mugs, the spice jars, and the half-empty bags of coffee, and I just feel grumpy. It's like the room is yelling at me.
That is exactly what visual noise does, Murph. Every single item sitting out in your line of sight is a piece of data. Your brain has to process the shape, the color, and the shadow of every mug and spice jar. When your environment is cluttered, your visual cortex is basically experiencing a traffic jam. It directly impacts your mood because it drains your cognitive battery.
So you're saying my eclectic decor style is basically a bunch of unclosed browser tabs in my brain?
Nailed it. There is actually a famous study from the Princeton University Neuroscience Institute. Researchers looked at task performance in organized versus disorganized environments. They proved that multiple visual stimuli present in your field of view actively compete for neural representation. In plain English, visual clutter restricts your capacity to focus, limits your brain's processing power, and directly increases frustration and irritability.
Wow, Princeton just called me out. But it's not just about mess, right? What if it's organized? But it's just a lot of stuff?
Great point. You can have a perfectly clean room that still causes mood crashes because of high visual contrast. If you have bright red pillows, a geometric rug, heavily patterned curtains, and a gallery wall packed into 300 square feet, your eyes never get to rest. We call it the museum effect. It's fun to visit, but living there keeps your nervous system in a constant state of mild arousal, which eventually leads to burnout.
Note to self, cancel the neon sign I ordered for the bathroom. All right, let's get to our listener question, because I think a lot of people are struggling with this. Mark from Seattle writes, Hey Murph and Jess, I have a tiny apartment but a huge collection of vintage cameras and vinyl records. I love them, but I feel visually overwhelmed. How do I keep my stuff without it ruining my mood?
Mark, I love this question. You don't have to become a minimalist. Professional designers use a trick called visual grouping. Instead of scattering your cameras on every available surface, group them together on one specific shelf. The brain is amazing. When items are grouped closely on a tray or inside a defined frame, the brain stops reading them as 20 separate objects and starts processing them as one collective unit. Boom. Instant drop in cognitive load.
That is genius. Put a tray under it, and suddenly it's intentional art, not clutter. My other favorite trick is swapping out clear storage bins for opaque ones. If you can't see the chaos inside the box, your brain doesn't have to process it.
Exactly. To sum it up for today, your mood is heavily dependent on visual ease. Give your eyes a place to land, group your collections, and put a lid on the chaos.
And speaking of giving yourself a break, next time, we're talking about a massive issue for small apartments, the feeling of privacy. How do you carve out personal boundaries when you can literally hear your fridge running from your bed?
It's going to be a good one. Make sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss it. Leaving a review helps other apartment dwellers find their peace too.
See you next time. Bye.